The Common Fund Data Ecosystem Portal is not just a place for researchers to search for data across the Common Fund, but also an integral part of the system that Common Fund dataset owners use to submit data to the system. When a DCC has new data to submit, they use a command line interface to push the data into our database, but it isn't immediately made public. Instead, we provide an intuitive system to assess their data before making it public. In order to do this, they would come to the portal and click on the For Submitters button. Here, we click on List All Submissions. Note that it requires login. Our authorization system only allows access to unapproved packages for people who are both logged in and pre-registered as being an employee of a given DCC. Let's explore one to see how a DCC would evaluate a package they've sent in. First, we're going to click View Summary Package. This takes us to the main place for reviewing a data package and assessing its quality. Here, we show grand totals for number of total files, number of total biosamples, and number of subjects that were submitted in this particular submission. For more visual assessment, we have an interactive plot that allows the DCC to plot all sorts of different combinations of what kind of data they've put in and make sure that the answers looked how they expect. Below this, we also have a metadata connectivity chart. This chart is analogous to FAIR metrics within the Common Fund data ecosystem. For entities with no bar or a very small bar, that tells us that there are few or no ways to make a search between those ideas. So in this particular example, there are no biosamples that are connected with substances, collections connected to genes, or collections connected to a number of other things like phenotypes, proteins, and substances. There are also no diseases that are attached to phenotypes. However, there are lots of biosamples that are attached to particular anatomies, biosamples that are attached to particular files, and biosamples that are attached to particular subjects. This is analogous with fairness, as combinations that have very high numbers will be more easily searchable and therefore more findable, and as you can imagine, files that have persistent identifiers are going to be more accessible because they have a way for a user to get to them from the portal. However, this is not fully analogous to fairness. We're assessing a large number of criteria that may or may not apply to any given DCC. For instance, in this dataset, subjects with substance is not going to be searchable, but that would make sense for something like the Human Microbiome Project, who didn't do any chemical alterations to the subjects in their assays. A submitting DCC has another way to assess the information that they've submitted to the Common Fund data ecosystem. By clicking any of these numbers, they will be taken to a search page that looks exactly like the search that is available to the public through the portal. Except these are also only using the data that was submitted in this particular instance of a submission. Here, we're looking at subjects, but if we click on Submitted Data Browser, we can also search by biosample, project, file, etc., all exactly the same as it will appear in the final portal if this instance is approved. Altogether, these features give DCCs an intuitive way to assess their submissions and determine whether they are actually going to appear in the portal in the way that they would expect. If desired, DCCs can even look at their old data submissions, whether or not they were eventually made public, and can view previous releases and what data was put into any given public release, which is useful for both tracking what they have done and reporting purposes.